Hello, welcome back to Kim Reads. We're gonna read the Bearenstain Bears and the Slumber Party. Sometimes little bears' good behavior ends when they pack over their pajamas and stay over with friends. One of the most interesting things about the telephone is that when it rings, sometimes you don't know who's calling until you answer it. Sometimes when the phone rang in the bear's treehouse, it was for Papa. Papa Bear is a furniture maker, and customers often call him about buying a table or chair. Yes, I think sometimes it was for Grizzly Gran calling for Mama about getting together for a visit. When the call was for Brother, it was usually Cousin Freddie with a question about homework. When it was for Sister Bear, it was almost always her best friend, Lizzie Bruin. And Lizzie always had some big idea. A tea party for all their stuffed animals. Going to the attic and dressing up in the grown-ups' clothes. Or organizing a sorority and using Farmer Ben's old chicken coop as a clubhouse. With permission, of course. But today, Lizzie was calling with her best idea yet. A slumber party tonight at your house? Great idea, said Sister. Just a few of my dearest friends, Lizzie continued. You, of course, and Anna and Millie and Queenie. Bring your sleeping bag. Anna and Millie are bringing some music, and Queenie's going to teach us the latest dance steps. I don't know, Mama Bear said later. You've never slept away from home before. Oh, but I have, protested Sister, at Grizzly Gramps and Grans. One time for a whole week. That's different, said Mama. Gramps and Grams are family. Close family. The Bruins are neighbors, argued Sisters. Close neighbors. Oh, please, Mama, it'll be such fun. Anna and Millie have great music. Queenie's going to teach us the latest dance steps. Oh, I suppose it's all right, sighed Mama. Oh, come on, let's get together and organize you for this slumber party. You know, she said as she checked out Sister's sleeping bag. It had some leaves stuck in it from a family sleep out. Sleeping over at a friend's house is a kind of a special privilege, and sometimes that goes with privilege as responsibility. Do you know what those words mean? Sure, said Sister. Privilege means allowed to do stuff, and responsibility means not messing up. Now remember what your mama told you about privilege and responsibility, said Papa Bear, as Sister started off to Lizzie Bruin's. Oh, I will, Papa, I will. But Sister wasn't very far along the road to Lizzie's before she began thinking about all the fun and excitement she was going to have at the party. It didn't take long for those thoughts to push Mama's advice about privilege and responsibility clear out of her head. Another interesting thing about telephones is that they help news travel fast, especially news about parties. Anna told her other friends about the slumber party, and they told their friends. Millie did the same. Pretty soon, cops from all over the neighborhood were calling Lizzie and asking if they'd come to the party. Sure, she said, but bring some popcorn or soda. We don't want to run out. Too Tall Grizzly didn't hear about the party by phone. He heard about when his gang went to show Queenie his new music player. The slumber party, he said to his pals. Sounds like fun. How are we going to get invited to a girls' party? Asked one of them. We're not going to get invited, stupid, said Too Tall. We're going to crash, music player and all. Later, when the rest of the Bear family had settled down for a quiet evening at home, Mama Bear sighed and said, I'm sure she'll be all right. Of course she will, said Papa Bear, looking up from a magazine. After all, Mama said, Sister is a well-behaved little cub, and Mr. and Mrs. Bruin have a lovely, well-run home and are responsible, careful parents. No doubt about it, said Papa, back to his reading. There was only one problem. Mr. and Mrs. Bruin weren't home. They had gone out for the evening and Lizzie in care of a teenage sister who wasn't much older than some of Lizzie's guests. The Bruins hadn't planned on a slumber party when Lizzie had asked if a few friends could sleep over, And they certainly hadn't planned on a rip-roaring, ear-splitting, popcorn-throwing, soda-squirting party for half the cows in the neighborhood. Because what was happening was Sister right in the thick of it. The only thing that wasn't happening at the slumber party was slumber. Lizzie tried to keep things under control, but she couldn't make herself heard over the noise. You've never heard such a commotion. Some neighbors up the road had never heard such a commotion either. They called the police. The chief sent Officer Marguerite to investigate. She reached the Bruins' house at the same time Mr. and Mrs. Bruin were returning home. While things calmed down pretty quickly after that, the party was canceled, parents were called, Lizzie was sent to bed, and an angry and disappointed Mama Bear came to take Sister home. I'm angry and disappointed, said Mama Bear as they walked home that night, after all the things I said about her privilege and responsibility. Sister was grounded and sent to bed, doubly grounded, which meant she had to stay in her room for a day and in the house for a week. Pretty harsh punishment, commented Papa Bear a little while later. Not harsh at all, said Mama. You should have seen the Bruins' living room. Popcorn stuck to everything, soda all over the place, lamps knocked over, an absolute disgrace. And after all I said about privilege and responsibility. Sister does have to share the blame, said Papa, but she didn't do it all by herself. It was one of those situations where one thing leads to another and things get out of control. But you know, my dear, privilege and responsibility aren't just for cubs. They're for parents, too. Cushions all strewn about, said Mama. It's a privilege to have cubs, and with privilege goes responsibility, continued Papa. So we're partly to blame, too. When Lizzie invited Sister to the slumber party, it was our responsibility to call the Bruins. If we had, we would have found out they were going to be out for the evening, and the whole thing would have been nipped in the bud. Said Mama thoughtfully. The next day, she canceled the grounding and took Sister over to the Bruins to help clean up. Anna, Millie, and Queenie had come to help too. I know what, said Lizzie, as full of ideas as ever. Let's make this a clean-up party. Let's not, said Sister. And if you don't mind, Liz, I don't want to hear the party again for a long time. And that's the end of that book. Thanks for listening.